You know, sometimes the people we help disappear from our lives, and sometimes they come back years later when we least expect it. It was past midnight. Rain was falling hard, drumming on the roof of a small cafe at the edge of town. Inside, an old man named Samuel was wiping down empty tables, ready to close up. He was tired. His cafe had seen better days, but he still kept the lights on, just in case someone out there needed warmth. Then, the bell above the door rang. A young woman, soaked from the rain, stood trembling in the doorway. I just needed somewhere dry for a while. And that's where this story begins. The storm had rolled in without warning. By the time Samuel locked the front door of his little cafe, the streets outside were already empty. Just the sound of rain hammering against the windows and the distant rumble of thunder somewhere over the hills. He was used to nights like this. Nights when no one came. Nights when the world seemed to forget small places like his. The nightlight cafe had been around for 20 years. Once it was full of laughter, chatter, and the clinking of cups. But that was before life changed, before his son, Eli's, accident. Now, it was mostly quiet. Samuel kept the cafe open late, maybe out of habit, maybe out of hope, the kind that never truly dies. He was wiping down the counter when the bell above the door gave a sudden ring. He frowned. No one should be out in weather like this. Then he saw her. A young woman stood at the entrance, drenched from head to toe. Her hair stuck to her face, her coat clinging to her shoulders. She looked lost, not just from the rain, but from something heavier, like she'd been running from more than just the storm. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know where else to go. My bus broke down and my phone's dead." Samuel didn't hesitate. He reached behind the counter, grabbed a towel, and handed it to her. "Come in, child. You'll catch your death out there." She stepped in carefully, like someone afraid to take up too much space. The cafe lights reflected in small puddles forming at her feet. Samuel poured her a cup of hot cocoa, the same way he used to make it for Eli. The smell of chocolate filled the air, mixing with the damp scent of rain. "Sit," he said, motioning toward the corner booth. "No charge. Nights like this, kindness should be free." The girl gave a faint smile. "Thank you. You didn't have to." He shook his head. "Maybe not. But sometimes we do things for strangers that we wish someone had done for us." She told him her name, Anna. She was new in town, about to start work at the local hospital. He listened to her story, how she'd lost her way in the rain, how she missed home even though she hadn't left long ago. There was something about her voice, honest, gentle, that stirred something inside him. like a door he hadn't opened in years. When the thunder rolled again, Samuel looked out the window and sighed. Looks like the rain's not stopping anytime soon. You can stay until morning. Anna hesitated, then nodded gratefully. He brought out a blanket, set it on the couch, and turned off the main lights, leaving only the warm golden glow of the counter lamp. For the first time in a long while, the cafe didn't feel so empty. Two strangers, one storm, and somewhere between the quiet and the rain, a story of kindness had just begun. Morning arrived quietly. The storm had passed, leaving a silver light over the streets and the smell of wet asphalt in the air. Inside the cafe, the coffee machine hissed softly, and the clock ticked with a steady, comforting rhythm. Samuel found Anna still asleep on the couch, her head resting on her arm, the blanket pulled to her chin. For a moment, he just watched, the way a parent might watch a child sleep after a long, exhausting day. There was a gentleness to her, a kind of tired peace that made him remember the nights when Eli would fall asleep at the counter after finishing his homework. He smiled quietly, then turned away to brew another pot of coffee. When Anna woke, sunlight was spilling through the blinds. She sat up, embarrassed. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to take up your space." Samuel just waved her off. "You didn't take up anything. The place needed company." She laughed softly, brushing her hair aside. "Then maybe I helped keep it open for one more night." "Maybe you did," he said, sliding a fresh cup toward her. "Coffee's on the house, too." "Doctor's orders." "Doctor?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. He chuckled. "Dr. Samuel Bennett, of Common Sense, retired." They both laughed, and for the first time in years, Samuel realized he missed that sound. Laughter that wasn't forced, but easy, genuine. Over breakfast, the conversation wandered. Anna talked about her new job at the hospital, her first real position since nursing school. She admitted she was nervous, afraid she wouldn't be good enough, afraid she'd disappoint the people who trusted her. Samuel nodded knowingly. "Fear's just another word for caring too much," he said. "The trick is to do it anyway." Anna looked up at him, thoughtful. "You sound like someone who's been through it." He hesitated, his eyes softening. "I have," he said quietly. Then, almost as if he couldn't help it, the story came out. He told her about Eli, how bright he was, how he used to help around the cafe, how a single accident on a rainy road had changed everything. He was 19, Samuel said. He wanted to be a chef. He wanted to be a chef, used to say he'd take over the cafe one day. But life had other plans. Anna didn't speak. She just listened the way good hearts do, fully, silently, with kindness. When he finally looked up, her eyes were wet. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "He sounds like someone who left a lot of love behind. Samuel smiled faintly. He did. I think I keep the place open because of that. Feels like he's still here somehow, in the smell of cocoa, in the sound of rain. That afternoon, Anna helped him stack chairs, wipe tables, and fix the loose hinge on the back door. They worked quietly, comfortably, two souls from different worlds moving in rhythm, like they'd known each other longer than a single night. When evening came, the sky turned a soft orange. Anna stood by the window, watching the light dance on the wet street. It's funny, she said, how strangers can feel familiar. Samuel looked at her for a long moment before replying. Maybe kindness is the memory we all share, even when we forget each other. They both fell silent, sighed. A breeze carried the scent of coffee and rain through the open door. And though neither of them knew it yet, that small connection between an old man who'd lost a son and a young woman searching for belonging was about to bring something back to life that both had thought was gone forever. Days passed, and what began as a single night's refuge quietly turned into something more. Anna started stopping by the cafe after her evening shifts. Sometimes she came just for tea, sometimes to talk, sometimes simply to sit in the quiet company that only Samuel's little place could offer. The townspeople began to notice the lights burning later than usual again. The regulars who used to pass by without glancing in now saw two figures inside, one old, one young, laughing softly under the amber glow. For Samuel, it felt like time had rewound. There was laughter again, and music, and the faint hum of conversation that once made the cafe feel alive. He never said it out loud, but having Anna around filled the emptiness Eli had left behind. She reminded him of his son's energy, the same kindness, the same habit of putting everyone else first. One Friday evening, as rain returned in thin silver threads across the window, Anna arrived with a small brown envelope. She looked nervous, the kind of nervous that comes before something important. I brought something for you, she said, setting it gently on the counter. Samuel raised an eyebrow. More rent I didn't ask for. She smiled. Sort of. But I think you'll want to see this. He opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a photograph, old, worn at the edges, but unmistakable. A boy in a hospital bed, smiling despite the wires taped to his chest. And next to him, a much younger Anna, wearing scrubs and a soft expression. For a long second, Samuel couldn't breathe. His hands trembled as he traced the image with his thumb. The boy was Eli, his Eli. The world seemed to tilt. Where did you get this? Anna's voice broke before she could answer. Mr. Bennett, she said quietly, I didn't know how to tell you. Years ago, when I was still in nursing school, your son was my first patient. He looked up at her, stunned. He used to talk about you, she continued. Said his dad ran a cafe by the river. Said, "You made the best cocoa in the world." When the nights got hard, he'd describe this place to me. Said he could almost smell the cinnamon. Samuel's eyes glistened. The memory hit him like a wave. Eli's voice, his laughter, the way he'd always insisted that the cafe smelled like home. I remember the night he passed, Anna whispered, her voice trembling. He was scared, so I sat with him. I told him one day I'd visit that cafe he loved so much, to see the light he talked about. I didn't think I ever would, until that night the bus broke down and the storm led me to your door. Samuel leaned back, pressing a hand over his mouth. The air felt heavy and light all at once. Grief, disbelief, gratitude, all mixing together in the same breath. I thought the world had taken everything from me. He finally said, his voice cracking. But maybe it was just returning it in a different form. Anna wiped her eyes and smiled through the tears. Maybe Eli was just showing me the way. They sat there in silence, the photograph between them, the sound of rain whispering against the glass, the same rain that had once taken a son away, now bringing back a piece of him through the kindness of a stranger. Samuel didn't sleep that night. The photograph sat on the counter under the glow of the cafe's small lamp. Eli's smile, frozen in time beside the young nurse, who, unknowingly, carried his memory back to him. Outside, the rain had softened into a quiet drizzle. The streets shimmered under the lamplight, and through the glass, he could see the reflection of two people, one in the photo, one standing beside him, connected by something beyond words. When Anna came by the next morning, Samuel was already waiting. 2 cups of cocoa steamed on the counter. "I made it the way he liked it," he said softly. "Half milk, half cream, a pinch of cinnamon." Anna smiled. "He made me try it once," she said, taking a sip. Said it tasted like home. They sat by the window in silence for a while, watching droplets slide down the glass. The air carried the soft hum of memory, not painful this time, but warm, like a heartbeat returning after too long. Samuel finally spoke. "You know," he said, "for years I thought I was keeping this place open for customers. Maybe I was waiting for this." Anna looked at him, puzzled. For what? For a sign that he's still out there somehow. That love doesn't stop when the body does. He gave a quiet laugh, shaking his head. "I used to think life was cruel for taking him so soon. But now, I think life was kind enough to send me you." Anna's eyes shimmered. He always said you were the kindest man he'd ever known. I think he was right. For the first time in years, Samuel didn't turn away from the mention of Eli's name. He let the tears come, Not the heavy ones of grief, but the soft kind that wash pain clean. They decided to hang the photo on the wall, right above the counter where Eli used to stand. Beneath it, Samuel placed a small wooden sign in loving memory, where kindness always finds its way home. That evening, as they closed up, Anna turned to him. You know, maybe the storm that night wasn't bad luck, she said. Samuel smiled. No, he whispered, looking out at the rain that had started again. Maybe it was the sound of someone finding their way back. For the first time in years, the cafe lights glowed, not out of habit, but out of love. The tables felt full again, even in their emptiness. The air was alive with laughter that once belonged to a boy and now lived quietly between two people who had learned the same truth: that kindness never disappears. It just travels from heart to heart until it finds its way home. The weeks that followed slipped by softly, like pages turning in an old, well-loved book. The nightlight cafe was no longer a quiet corner, forgotten by time. It breathed again. Some nights, a few customers came in after work, drawn by the golden glow spilling onto the street. Other nights, it was just Samuel and Anna, cleaning, laughing, talking about life, about Eli, about everything in between. The photo of Eli and Anna stayed on the counter. People often asked who they were. Samuel would smile and say, "That's my boy," and the angel who brought him back. And Anna would blush, pretending to busy herself with refueling sugar jars. But in her heart, she knew she'd found something she didn't know she was missing: belonging. One rainy evening, softer this time, gentle as memory, Samuel brewed 2 mugs of cocoa. He placed one in front of Anna, the other beside the photo frame. The light flickered across the glass, dancing on Eli's smile. "You ever notice," Samuel said, leaning back, "how some storms don't come to destroy us? They come to bring someone in?" Anna nodded slowly. "I think I was one of those storms." He chuckled. "Maybe, but you left sunshine behind." Outside, the streets glimmered with reflections, neon signs blending with puddles, the world calm and washed clean. Inside, time seemed to pause. The cafe's old clock ticked again after years of silence, as if it too had been waiting for this peace. Samuel took a sip of cocoa, then looked out the window. "You know," he said softly, "I used to think the best thing I ever made was coffee. Turns out it was the people I kept warm while they drank it." Anna smiled. "You gave strangers a place to feel human again. That's rare, Mr. Bennett." He shook his head gently. "That's all any of us can do, Anna. Keep the lights on in case someone's lost out there in the dark." The bell above the door chimed as another customer entered. shaking rain from his coat. Samuel rose with that familiar kindness in his eyes, ready to serve, ready to welcome. The camera would linger here, the warm light, the steam rising from the mugs. The photo between them glowing softly as the narration closes. Kindness doesn't ask for recognition. It just waits patiently, quietly, until it finds its way home. And when it does, it brings with it the light we thought we'd lost. The shot widens. Outside, the rain falls in a slow shimmer under the streetlight. And through the cafe window, we see two silhouettes, one old, one young, sharing laughter over cocoa. A place once empty, now alive again. Fade out, soft piano, rain in the background. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness is not an ending, but the beginning of someone's return to the light. And maybe that's the real magic of kindness. It doesn't fade, it travels. From a cup of cocoa shared with a stranger, to a memory that finds its way home years later. When Samuel opened his door that rainy night, he wasn't saving someone. He was saving himself, finding the piece of love that life had borrowed for a while, and finally returned. So tonight, if the world feels quiet, leave a light on. Someone out there might be walking through their storm, looking for the warmth you carry. Because kindness, no matter how small, always comes back. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in the way you expect, but always when it's needed most. If this story touched your heart, share it, and let's keep the light moving forward. One story, one heart, one act of kindness at a time.